Hi there, it's Helen Chorley from Property Sisters UK, and we are joined today for another look forward into 2021, joined by Adam Lawrence, who, as many of you know him very well through the PIP, the Partners in Property Network, and that's just one of the many hats that he wears. I always love chatting with Adam and a number of the other guys that we used to have Sunday chats with, because he brings kind of sense in a very understandable way. And yeah, would love to hear what your thoughts are for this year, Adam.
Thanks, Helen. I love those great intros because I know I can only disappoint from there on, but I'll try my best. So I know we want to try and do some predicting for 2021, and because it was so easy last year, we thought, well, why not give it another go this year? I think certainly throughout the year last year, there were points where I was thinking the market was going to be probably 10% down, was about as bearish as I got. And then we ended up, 7 or 8% up or something like that. It's a bit crazy. I'm always a bit mindful of talking about the whole of the market because really very few of us care because we don't invest all over the country. We don't invest in every single asset class and all the rest of it. But I see that the headlines are saying things like 4% rise for the year. I think they're probably just guessing, to be honest. I think any prediction needs to be quite broad this year, realistically. My view of what the market should do would be it should go about sideways or come off the top a bit after the stamp duty holiday ends, if that's what happens. And of course, that's a very critical point for the year, March the 31st. And now we've gone into lockdown 3.0. What will happen? I've been of the view for about 6 months that stamp duty will be reformed, not brought back in exactly as it was, but also not extended, because I think if they could go back and change one thing from the property market's perspective over the last 9 months, it would be the stamp duty holiday. And I don't think they would offer up a stamp duty holiday because it always creates this kind of boom and bust mentality. And, we're going to see, I bet we're seeing deals agreed right now, and we will do for the next couple of weeks, that people desperately try to get through by the end of March. And I think we both know there's probably a lot that will fall apart after the end of March because it didn't get concluded in time. So Boris has never been a fan of stamp, and I think he wants to reform it as it is rather than extend the holiday. But of course, we've seen lots of stuff like furlough definitely coming to an end and then get extended anyway. So an extension is not completely off the cards. And, I think we know as we record this, we've got 2 weeks of cases and numbers and deaths getting worse in the UK. Then we've got 2 weeks of it getting back to where we are now. Then we've got 2 weeks of it getting back to sort of beginning of December. And then we should have a lot of vulnerable people vaccinated by then. So then we will see the real impact of everything. And that only takes us to sort of the end of February, really, or the middle end of February. So things will change quite quickly. But the one thing I think I can predict with certainty is it'll be very volatile. I think we'll have up months and down months like we did last year. You don't see graphs at the ONS like you did last year, generally speaking, because in April, May, you were in a 2.5% to 3% year-on-year fall in the market.
Yeah.
You then got to November and you had a 7% rise. There's a 10% difference there, isn't there? And I think you'll see, we inevitably will see a rise until the end of March because the stamp duty transactions will hit the land reg. So we won't get that data till about May. April will inevitably drop off if the cliff edge remains where it is. There'll inevitably be a drop off. And then it will be, right, who wants to transact in the new environment in May? Just as furlough theoretically is coming to an end. I strongly suspect we'll see another job support scheme or something like that, like they were trying to do in November as the runoff to furlough. So we'll see what happens with all of that as well, won't we? And that unemployment drag is going to be a drag as we get into the winter of 2021, which we all hope will be a bit kinder than the winter of 2020, of course. But it's not out of the question we could be in a fourth wave by then. I mean, you just don't know. So I think I would say it should be sideways with volatility. We may see it come off a couple of percent, but I'd rather sort of focus on a little bit more detail because I think that's probably more useful for people. So I see city centre struggling. I see it struggling to transact. I see, the 2% stamp premium for the overseas buyer is coming in on the 1st of April. I don't see that deadline being moved. So that will put a couple of people off. That obviously taxes always slow down transaction numbers. And that's alongside the stamp holiday. So you've got that going on. And I think city centres are going to be continued to be impacted by the working from home thing, which is obviously going on and is going to become a bit more permanent. And even if 10% of people's regular office life becomes 3 days on, 2 days off, that's still a lot of demand that releases in the inner zones in London, and certainly in Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, and all the rest of it. Why would you take a smaller flat in a convenient location? Okay, if you're in your 20s and your lifestyle dictates that's what you want to do, that's fine, but there won't be as many people who want to pay that premium ultimately. So I think the suburbs will be robust this year again. I think they'll do 4 or 5% upwards. I think the city centres will lose money, and I think they'll lose more like 4 or 5% realistically. I think it'll be quite a sharp adjustment. And then rural and seaside and lesser settlements, I think they'll do fine as well. I see the second homes market being fairly buoyant. I think when we can vacation freely again in the Waleses and stuff of the world, there'll be people wanting to buy serviced accommodation for the expanded market of people catching up on holidays, and long weekends will become more of a thing. You know, people will work from home Thursday, Friday, maybe go to their holiday home to do that if people have got, you know, decent city jobs and things like that pay big money. So second homes are much more attractive than when Jeremy Corbyn was, the spectre of Mr. Corbyn was upon us nearly 18 months ago, you know. So I think that will help rural and seaside, and lifestyle changes will kick in as well. So that's the sort of breakdown in terms of geography, urban versus suburban. And then in terms of areas of the country, I see the southeast struggling. I always thought the southeast would struggle the most on the back of a Brexit scenario. We'll see how that plays out now, of course, but there's still unanswered questions for me about the financial sector and the City of London that we're going to have to see. We're sucking it and seeing on that basis. And I think the Midlands and the Northwest will continue to do well. I think the Northeast will continue to have the struggles that it's had. Scotland and Wales, difficult to say. Wales obviously got another 1% on the stamp duty additional rate to contend with. So that will put a few investors off again, although it's been quite hot recently. But Wales and Scotland still look pretty cheap, really. And devolved governments, if you take that thinking through, ultimately devolution will almost certainly lead to bigger, and I'm assuming that devolution is going to continue into independence. I don't know when. You know, obviously it won't be this year, but that is the longer term trend, I think. And then you'll have countries in reality, I think, that will run big budget deficits and will probably, potentially, certainly Scotland, have immigration arrangements with the EU, potentially even joining Schengen if they join the EU, which will actually bolster the economy and the rental market. So there's reasons to be bullish in Scotland, although there are reasons to be cautious, including currency concerns and how strong is the Scottish economy versus the economy of the UK. It's a very different proposition that will have to borrow money at a different rate apart from anything else, which could be quite painful. But I see lots of positives for rentals in Scotland and Wales. And I see LHA rates going up again on the 1st of April 21, because I've noticed how much the valuation models have impacted. Their rents are going up and becoming more realistic. Our rents, we're renting stuff sometimes 10 or 15% above the last tenancy, and it's just going like that. We just can't get houses quickly enough to let them out. It's unbelievable, the demand at the moment. And I think that will continue. The first couple of months are going to be hard to transact in, ultimately, because of the lockdown. And people will be pushing things through that they were trying to do by 31st of March, of course, even if that doesn't end up being the deadline. So I see an interesting first half of the year. And I think the unemployment thing, I can see that being kicked into 2022 in terms of its impact on the property market. So I think for this moment, the job market will largely stay out. I think credit will be available and continue to be available because banks still clearly want to lend. Interest rates will stay super low. It's still a very good environment to be a borrower in. especially if you can get it on first charge from a senior debt lender. And I think largely it'll be interesting, it'll be volatile, but there's no reason not to get stuck in again this year, and that's what I'm going to be doing, Helen.
I love that. It's like cloudy with a chance of meatballs, sideways with a huge chance of volatility.
Absolutely. Very good.
That's brilliant, Adam. Thank you so much. We love listening to your words of wisdom and your take on this. So thank you very much for joining us, and we hope we can catch up with you during the year to see how things are going. Maybe after March 31st, like you say, see where we are and what whole new world we're in then. Who knows, right?
Well, of course, if I've got it completely wrong, then I'll disappear altogether. But if I got it right, then I'll be happily back. But thank you for the invite, Helen. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Adam.
Okay.